Hi and welcome to another episode of the Getting Things Done podcast from Vital Learning. I am, as always, Morten and I'm always here, as always, with, now I lost my, this is not working. That's normal. Good friend and colleague Lars Henriksen from Denmark. Privet, Lars.
Privet, Morten.
We are really not good at this. At least I'm not good at this. Sorry.
It is a blooper episode. Good to see you, as always, and good to be with our listeners and viewers out there. We always start off with a quick reminder of the purpose of the podcast, which is to help you learn GTD or become even better GTDers. We hope that today's episode supports you in that. I think it just might. If you are new to GTD, we always recommend you go back and listen to the first 6 episodes of the podcast. Find the audio version there where we go through the basics, the 5 steps of GTD. Today's episode number is number 140 of the podcast. And today's episode is called A Key to Feeling Good About Your Work. And I think we're still in the 20 years with GTD, right, Morten?
We are, and I wrote down a lot of the ideas of things that I've picked up, and trying to figure out things that what I figure out, as David Allen would say, things I didn't know until I knew them, and some key takeaways, and this is one of them, and. The idea of feeling good about your work, and I've had people coming to me and asking me, I feel buried in my work, I have GTD, but I'm still feeling buried. And then I drill down a little into what is that, and that is that they don't really know what they are responsible for. So areas of responsibility, areas of focus are, probably 2 names are more or less the same thing, but it is what are you responsible for, and what would you like to focus on? And I've seen so many people having problem with that and feeling really relieved when they get an overview of the areas of focus. And just to stop there for a second, Lars, have you seen something like that when you coach people, talk to people? How do you feel about your areas of focus right now? Yeah. Are they vital to you?
Absolutely. No, we've I think we've both experienced this. I think for other people and myself, this really was a layer that was missing. I think I've mentioned on the podcast before. I mentioned that in I think every GTD training that we deliver, is that I really wish that we could get people on board with just this second level. So we talk about next actions, we talk about projects, but zooming out one more level in the horizons of focus and getting to that areas of focus level, it just makes such a big difference. And I really wish that everyone who learned GTD also learned that part, because for me personally, I clearly remember a shift that there was a level of, I think there was a lot of productivity that came, and this is perhaps more of the personal experience of things, but I was very productive and got a whole lot of things done. But that really calm level of GTD that GTD can bring, I think that only started to really show up after having a good, clear, somewhat polished version perhaps of the areas of focus and accountability, having that set up for myself. So where I see it, and I see that in other people as well, that we have typically the level 2 trainings where we walk through this, or it could be in coaching, as you mentioned, trying to draw this. It's a fun exercise. I love doing it with people, whether in trainings or coaching. And there is such it's just such a nice representation of all of the stuff that takes place in your work and life. So yeah, absolutely. For me, for the people that I work with, it makes a big difference to have this areas of focus level established.
Well, one of the things that I've been thinking about when it comes to this is that there is and this is what I call a truism. I don't know if that's a word. I just made it up. I think it is a word, at least. But it goes like this. And I will read off my screen now to get it correct. If you don't have a clear picture of what is expected of you, how do you then know that you're doing a good job? I will repeat that. If you don't have a clear picture of what is expected of you, how do you know if you're doing a good job? And there is 2 layers of this that I don't know if you've reflected on that, Lars, but one is what I call external expectations of you, but also your internal expectations of you. So, for example, are you in your areas of focus or responsibility overview? Are you in that? Do you have like self-care, take care of me part? Have you thought about that? How do you have that personally on your areas of focus? Yeah. But because I meet people who are very external. Everybody else is expecting something of me, and I'm responsible for this A, B, C, D. But me, where am I? Not there at all. Which is both a bit sad, but also unfortunately a lacking system. So let's walk through how you can create them and how you can use them, where they fit into the GTD system as such, the methodology. So, and just to zoom out, you have in the hierarchy of the horizons of focus, we have from the bottom up, you have the next actions and calendar. What is on your calendar? What's in your next action lists that you're committed to do something about and move forward? And above that, you have your project, your desired outcomes, personal and professional, things that you want to get done and how to going about doing them is the next actions. And above this is your areas of focus and responsibility. And one of the things that I repeat until nausea comes is that these areas of focus and project will give birth to projects, decide outcomes. So if you have an area of focus and look at it and you feel, well, I'm not maintaining this at a level that I feel comfortable with, then you'll need to do something. And the do something is to create a small project. So and there is a good healthy exercise to make sure that your areas of focus are aligned with your desired outcomes and next action. How often do you look at your areas of focus, Lars, and try to align them with your next actions? Do you have a routine on that? I know you're a lot more routine than I am.
No, well, I try to revisit them on when I do my monthly review. So that is where they show up for me. I'll go through them there, and I will, see if they remind me of something. I think for me, there is an alignment process. Certainly, that is an option. But for me, it's more of a looking at them, thinking about them, what shows up, if anything. Is there anything I need to do about this? Am I happy with where we are with this area of focus? That's really most of it. And some of them can also, involve more details. Some of them might be a bit broader, and I'll dive into the ones that I feel like most need my attention. So one thing that caught my attention in the last one was that we had an old neighbor in the summer house that moved and sold it to someone else, and she actually still finds her way into my list. So just checking in and see how she's doing, and perhaps invite her for a cup of coffee or something. So I will. It's again. There's for me somewhat of an intuition here, but the key thing is that I have that overview and can dive into where I feel this is most necessary. I think that's, if that makes sense.
Very much so. One of the things that I've been thinking about when it comes to these kinds of when you find something on your list and that you get a cognitive dissonance on. I don't know if that ever happens to you. You commit to something that why did I commit to that? And try to get it to fit into your horizons of focus with the areas of focus. That may be or correct, but one of the things that I found at least early on in my GTD practice was that I had sometimes accepted projects that is not in accordance with my higher horizons. So I said yes to something I probably should have said no to. And the areas of focus, when they are mapped out, is a very good tool to see how does that fit in with my areas of focus. Do I have to make it bigger? Do I actually have time for this? And to lift it to the areas of focus level helps you make those decisions easier. At least that's in what I found in my practice. I'm thinking maybe we can then go from, where is it in the horizons of focus to how to create them. Because if there are, a key to feeling good about your work, then we have to tell people how can you feel good about your work. So if somebody asked you, Lars, how would I go about creating them? What kind of maps or what kind of overview do I need? What would you tell them?
Yeah, it really depends on how we want to approach it. I think just before we do that, one area where this often shows up and where this exemplifies why I think really almost everyone, at least that does GTD, should also be familiar with the areas of focus and perhaps have that map drawn up, is that when we see people coming from a level 1 training, familiar with next actions, familiar with projects, we'll see projects on their list that aren't projects, right? These are then the areas that they have spotted that they needed to do something about. But since there wasn't a new list to put them on, meaning the areas of focus and accountability, then they put them on the projects list, which means that they don't get the overview of the areas of focus. They don't have a good, clear projects list. And again, so what we're trying to help them with is actually, starting to see some things creep in that shouldn't be there. So that's typically part of the value that people experience when they start to draw out the areas of focus. The way that I typically do it, I don't know how you normally do it in your coaching sessions or in the level 2 trainings, but we typically start off with a nice, clean mind map and simply ask the question, so what are you responsible for? What are you accountable for in your job? So they could start off with the key areas of responsibility for them. We could ask, what would your boss say? We could say, so when you joined the company, what was outlined in the description of the position that you have? So again, this would be the work-related one, of course, but that is where we could start. And I think for most people, they're fairly good at taking that sort of overview step and walking through that and simply just brainstorming out all of the bigger areas, smaller areas, committees that they are involved with, direct reports, budgets, R&D, whatever it might be that their position is all about. Start to get that out, and then we typically regroup it, rearrange it, dive into some of them to add a few more details to the extent that it is helpful for the person that we walk through this with. I think that would be sort of the very quick introduction to how we would do it. Yeah, really does that sound familiar?
I very much so. So I just want to tell people that we talk about. We suggest mind maps, and it is a suggestion, not a kind of like you must do this, but it is for some people, or at least most of the people I met, like mind maps. But you can also do it in list if you're a list person. You just have to make the lists with bullet points. So let's say that you are a manager of people, then you will be, then maybe it is a good idea to map out the areas. Like maybe you are responsible for their learning and development. So L&D could be one part of being a manager, and then under their one-on-one meetings with your people, just set aside that and make sure that you go into the depth that you need to go when it comes to areas of focus and responsibility, but you don't have to drill into the nitty-bitty details there. What you can do is to just look at that, and if that triggers a project, then it's well handled. For example, if you haven't had one-on-ones with your people in a while talking about their performance, like a performance review, I don't know if you do those, but if you do, they should be on your areas of focus. And then when you look at that on a regular basis, then it will birth a project setting that up and creating, reviews with my people. So. And I will then just move us into, when you've done that, you should do it on in your personal sphere as well, because we are, most of us at least, we have a family life, or at least a life outside work. It could be you're responsible for everything if you're single. But for example, if you're single having a dog, then suddenly the dog is your responsibility as a home owner maybe, and maybe you have a car, you're a car owner. So just mapping it out and understanding exactly what it is. And if you then add on some sort of a family as well, you are probably a son or a daughter. You're probably maybe if you have children, you're a father or mother. You can also be as if you have a better half, you're a spouse. So just map all of these things out in a personal mind map for areas of focus. That is helpful. And why should you do that, Lars? Just we talked about it jokingly that this is good for your mapping them out and comparing them to your manager's expectation is key, both professional and personal. so if you, I don't know if you've counted that, that if you haven't done that, that might be some, what we call it, friction in the home. I don't know if that ever happened to you.
But it's a great thing to do, and trying to align that. I think for most people, actually, when we've spoken about, I've mentioned that a number of times, and then when we talk about people on their level 2 training, they're pretty committed GTDers typically, so they will probably be happy to try to do some kind of walkthrough and outline, and try to walk through them and see who does what, and this is the way that we want to see it. How does it distribute the responsibilities between us in the home? So that's certainly a great way to do it. I think similarly, and that was sort of the reverse of what you were saying, that you would on your areas of focus, that you would outline perhaps see the direct reports and see, I should be perhaps check in with Bob to see how he's doing. It's been a while. And it could be the other way around, that I know several people in Denmark that they have taken their areas of focus and accountability that they drew up themselves, and they took it to their boss, or they took it to there's this like a yearly planning meeting, I forget, performance reviews, where you have these check-ins, to bring that there and align with a boss or a team lead, whatever it might be, to say, okay, so this is what I think I'm responsible for. Do you see it in the same way? Is there something that I'm missing? And this can really lead to very interesting discussions when we talk about, so where do I then spend my time? Because, okay, all of these are certainly my areas of focus and accountability, and I was hired to do all of this cool strategic work, and 80% of my day-to-day life is admin. So how do we then deal with that? Do we then change my role to see that is actually what it is, or do we hand this over to someone else? And that brings us to could we do this on kind of a team level even, and making sure that the team is very much aligned in this. And when we work together, where does my work stop and where do you take over if we're working on the same kind of deliverable? Having that kind of clarity is just, there's so much good stuff that can come out of the areas of focus.
Definitely. And one of the things that I've seen people do when they are doing the mapping out, and I talk to them, is that I see that they sometimes look at their mind maps and they kind of get breathing problems. It's like they're breathing on top of their lungs, because they understand they're really overcommitted, and really feel buried in all their commitments and responsibilities, and that is it is a good waking up. I have people that I coach that really have a problem saying no, and then showing them this, and then talking about the necessity of saying no to new things. And it is a good job. If you have this overview, compare it with your compare the expectations to your better halves and bosses in your life, and saying, okay, is this in alignment with what you think? And if it is, this is really too much for me to get through? What can we do about that? And then an open-ended question that's going to help your manager or your better half to look at, okay, maybe I can take a little of this, and then maybe we can delegate this to well, children or some of our team, because it is for a manager, this is a good tool. If you map it out like that, it's a good tool for the manager to help you feel good about your work. Because if you have too high expectations of yourself and others have the same idea, that is driving. Even if you get really good at getting things done, I've done an informal. I asked my people that work on GTD for a while and get good at it, and I asked them how on a hunch feeling. Not this is not. It's not scientific, but how do you feel? How much more of the right things do you get done now than compared to before GTD? And people says, well, I run between 10 and 40% is what they tell me.
Wow.
And I probably are around 40 myself. It's a subjective feeling of what I'm doing. But getting 40% more done does not help if you're driving yourself into an early grave by having too much. You will never be finished, because your areas of focus are always birthing new things to do. So I don't know if does that make sense to you, Lars?
Yeah, no, interesting with the statistics there. I think the more simple approach or experience is just for people to, once they've mapped it out, how does that then impact their other horizons? I don't know if that's perhaps implicit in the way that you approached it, but if I have then, let's say I drew out my areas of focus now, if I go back to my next actions list, do all of these then line up with an area of focus or accountability? If I look at my projects, do they all line up? And the reverse too. For me, this really opened up the higher horizons as well, to a lot more detail. There was sort of a more broad approach that I could sort of take instinctively when starting to understand the higher horizons, probably mostly from the Making It All Work book. But having a good, clear picture of these areas of focus and accountability would then open up, say, okay, so what is my vision for this area of focus or this area of focus when we talk 5 years into the future? Where should I be from a health perspective? Where do we want to, what do we want to experience, or any sort of big projects that I want to save up for the summer house, whatever it might be. So it made it more specific, more concrete, and much more easy for me to work with. So for me, that had a big impact in that sense as well.
I have, at least for me, run to the end of my notes of what we should cover in this episode. Do you have something to add, Lars, that you've jotted down?
Two small things, maybe three.
Okay.
Now, just for people out there listening that already have, if you don't have your areas of focus, clearly you can hear that we're cheering you on to go in there and attempt and draw that out and draft that. And a good place to start that would be episode number 59, because that is where we walk through creating the areas of focus. So find that on the YouTube. Most of our episodes you can listen to, especially that one. I always recommend people to go and watch, because we show you some examples, and that is, at least for me personally, what was really helpful to, okay, so this is what it could look like, and then that sort of made things much easier.
And which
if you
episode
already
was
have
that
them,
again? So just
59.
GTD
GTD areas of focus.
Good. Yes.
So if you don't have them, that's a good starting point. Or if you do have them, perhaps you can go there and get inspired to perhaps refine the ones that you have. I think that's it's one of the more static lists. The higher we go in the horizons, perhaps some of them become more static, because they have they change less over time. But it's good to check in on. And one adjustment that you might want to make, or at least dive into, is one of the things that I mentioned at the last masterclass retreat in Norway, with having some clear standards for each of them. Because it's nice that we know the areas that we have our attention on, but what should it look like? Coming back to what you said, how will I know if I do a good job? Well, we kind of also need to know is 80% good enough, or do we have to go to 120% every time on each deliverable in this area or in this area? What should my health look like? What should the weight? Just as an example, in theory, what should my weight be? So setting some standards and having them accessible. So when you do, for example, a monthly review or whenever you review them, that you have that the smart version of you sat down and thought through this should be a realistic level for me to achieve on each of these areas of focus. I know that for some people might be a bit sort of a deep dive, but in some areas that I think that would be helpful as well to outline that. So I think those were the sort of the last 2, 3, 4, well, however many things I managed to mention there. Those were the last things for me.
Good. I hope that this has been a key to helping you feel good about your work, this episode. And before I ask Lars to take us out, I just want to say that we have a blooper section in this. You might want to have a look at that at the end. So we messed around a little.
But to get to that, you have to just get us through the quick reminders that we give you at the end of each episode. The first one being the GTD summer camp that we organize every year. We had a fantastic one once again this year, and we'll do our best to do it again in 2027. So if you want to be notified when we open up for signups, the easiest way is simply just to send me an email. Those of you that have attended in this year or previous years will get an email saying the signups are now open, but if you're not on those lists, then feel free to send me an email and I'll add you to that list to give you an email when we open up for signups for the 2027 edition. So email me at lars@VitalLearning.dk. The other reminder, actually the second reminder, is for me to remind you to go to VitalLearning.eu, because that is the group website for all of the Nordics plus countries that are part of the Vital Learning family. Go there, find your way to the local countries where you'll find out what Morten and I and the others do across the different countries with speeches, coaching, getting things done, crucial conversations, all of those great trainings and courses. So have a look at VitalLearning.eu. If you're outside the Nordics, gettingthingsdone.com is a good place to find your local partners. And the last thing for me to mention is that we have we're planning a special episode as well later this year. So if you're not already subscribed, be sure to do that. GTD is 25 years in 2026. So we have a special episode coming up with David Allen. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that when we release it. And lastly, we always remind you also about the GTD Masterclass retreats, right, Morten?
We do. And the GTD Masterclass retreat is an exclusive, very hands-on approach to how to figure out what's the meaning of your life. What's the purpose of your life? What is your values? What is your purpose? What is the vision that you would like to have for your life when you live it successfully? How would it look and feel for you? And this is done by gathering a group of 12 individuals that will receive coaching, one-on-one, and group coaching and group learning sessions and learning from each other's session. And in a very beautiful place now in September, it will be in Holkenhavn Castle in Denmark, really a beautiful place. And in February, it will be one in Losby Gods, Losby Manor outside Oslo, really beautiful winter landscape there as well. And in September, we have confirmed Catherine Allen as a coach. And David Allen will also join us this time as the last times. The difference now is that he will not be coaching, but he will be available for hang out with you and talk to you. And he, if you offer him a glass of wine, I'm sure he will be super happy to have a chat with you. So he's a very sociable person, but he's 8 years old and he can rest a little on his laurel, but he will be there. That's his promise. And and it is the website is linked in the show notes. Go there, have a look, and there's an application if we don't know you from before, if you're not received coaching or is an alumni from the masterclass retreat. Please go there and apply, and we will have a chat. Either Lars will have a chat or I will have a chat with you. And I think we are ready now to say goodbye, because now Lars has put his flowers behind his ear again. Take care all, stay safe and stay productive until next time. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Looking great. Hi and welcome to the Getting Things Done podcast from Vital Learning. And if you're looking at this at YouTube, you understand why I'm laughing, because Lars accidentally broke an orchid off the orchid plant, or the orchid flowers, and he is wearing them behind his ear. I'm not sure how long he's going to do that, but okay. But welcome to the podcast. I'm Morten Røvik, and I'm here with Lars Rotskild Henriksen, my good friend and colleague from Denmark. Privet, Lars.
Privet, Morten. Good to see you as always, and I'll take off the orchids now, even though you promised me they looked great. Good to be with everyone out there, listeners and viewers. We always start off with a reminder of the purpose of the podcast, which is to help you learn GTD or become even better GTDers.